Welcome everyone to this interesting panel. We are going to talk about resilience in the pharma, especially after such a disruption with the Chief Transformation Officer, the COVID-19 pandemic. We certainly need resilience, and of course, there is an ever increasing demand. So we have got very interesting people and thoughts all around. So we won't waste time here. I am Supten Sarvadikari. I'm a medical doctor turned digital health education. I'm going to moderate the session. So we have a galaxy of speakers, and we'll start straight away with Mr. Vijender Mishra. Over to you, sir. Please introduce yourself and say what you're going to enlighten us about.
Yeah, thank you very much. I feel privileged, honored, and I'm glad to have, I'm part of this panel discussion today. Thank you very much for that. Basically, my name is Vijender Mishra. I am the Chief Information Security Officer. I work at Alchem Laboratories. I am basically a seasoned cybersecurity professional having more than 20 plus years of global proven record in cyber defense, in aligning and integrating technology and cybersecurity with the business roadmap. I have worked in 3 continents and managed a very large and complex cybersecurity portfolios for more than 35 countries. I believe in creating a cyber warriors, who can act as a human firewall and helps organizations to develop and adopt cybersecurity culture. Currently, I'm assisting my organization, Alchem Laboratories, to strengthen their cybersecurity posture. Yeah. I have authored a book on cybersecurity also called Cybersecurity, Be Aware, Connect with Care. Today, I'm going to talk about, artificial intelligence in and ML, AI and ML use in drug discovery. So that is going to be my topic for today's discussion. Yeah. Although it is very important to know that there are multiple segments to bringing a drug to the patients. And broadly speaking, if you ask me, they include drug discovery, drug development, and drug administration. And these segments are often viewed as the same. But today I would like to talk more about artificial intelligence and ML use in drug discovery. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to you. So next speaker is Mr. Atanu Bhomik. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Sarvadikari. It's a great honor to be with you guys and the movers and shakers of the industry. It's a big opportunity, and I thank Tech Media for that. About me, I'm a very new entry in the sector, in pharma sector. I'm just 3 years old. I'm probably the youngest guy in the group right now in the industry. However, I have an experience of almost all possible sectors, right from financials to security to bank, non-banking, manufacturing, and a lot of things, and multi-continental experience I'm bringing in together into the pharma sector. That is what makes the difference here out, where I have seen, the differences in that sector, how this is adopting technology and not adopting technology, or going slow on technology or going fast on technology, and all those things I have seen. Hence, I have also taken the topic, which is IT/OT convergence, which is the happening thing in days to come, or has already started in this particular pandemic because of the pandemic thing. In the pharma sector. Pharma sector, as was always an interesting area for me. This is where I am in right now, and I'll be talking about the IT/OT convergence. Thanks.
So looking forward to your thoughts. And next speaker we have in the panel, Mr. Gaurav Kataria. Over to you.
Hi, thanks, Supten, and thanks everyone for having me here. This is a very, very, pertinent topic in today's day and age. I think we're all slowly coming back to normalcy after the pandemic hit us more than a year, back. And across the world, businesses are disrupted, and the pharmaceutical, sector and the healthcare sector is no different, right? At the end of the day. And everybody has realized over the last, so many months that technology is here to stay. And the digital agenda has only got accelerated during the pandemic. It started off with enabling work from home. Then it went on to the very critical aspect, like Vijender also mentioned around cybersecurity, right? And then, going on to other aspects of IT/OT integration. So there are multiple aspects, right, from drug discovery all the way to drug development, and then taking those drugs to market. Very interestingly, I was reading a news around a company called Statwick, a startup which has just started an alliance with Tech Mahindra around applying technology for distribution and safe distribution of vaccination across the globe. So there's technology play right across the board. And what I'll touch upon is what we've done as Sai Life Sciences. We're a leading CDMO, contract development and manufacturing organization headquartered over India. We work with some of the top big pharma and biotechs and innovator firms across the globe. And I'll be happy to share some of my experiences, and I'm hope that the audience can gain out of that. So back to you, Suptim.
Thank you very much. So our next speaker in the panel is Mr. Puran Jaiswal. Over to you.
It's good to have on the panel with the expertise is already there. As Mr. Antanu was saying, like he is the least experienced person. So for everyone's information, I joined this organization, Entero Healthcare, this month. In fact, Jan this year, Jan. So it's been only 6 months in the pharma industry. But since we are the largest distributor of pharmaceutical products, including your surgical devices and our own products. So if you see on my back end, you can see the list of cities we are present into. So we are primarily a distributor. We take the stock from the various pharma companies and we make sure that it is getting delivered to end shops, doctors, the hospitals. So we have exclusive partnership with a few of the companies. We are the channel partner. You can say we have a marketing ties also with some companies. So supply chain is something which has been disrupted heavily in this COVID times. Sometimes if you go back to pre-COVID, there was a traditional way of supplying the medicines, but in COVID there were a lot of limitation. There are lockdowns. With that limitation, we were supposed to deliver the things on time or say before time. And so I'll be talking more about how technology has helped us, how AI ML has helped us to make sure we deliver on time or before time. At the same time, it is we also keep our stakeholders involved in it. Is not just the things are happening in the back end. There were various dashboards and everything created. So we'll talk about more of that.
We'll start with Mr. Vijender. So what do you think can be the role of AI and ML for the improving efficiency in drug discovery?
Before I start with the core functions of artificial intelligence and machine learning in pharma, especially in drug discovery, let me quickly touch upon few very generic points. Yeah. So all we know, it is important to note that there are multiple segments, to bringing a drug to the patients, and it's a very lengthy process. Yeah, sometimes it takes between 8 to 12 years. But broadly speaking, if you ask me that how this drugs are being discovered and how artificial intelligence and machine learning is helping pharmaceutical companies to make a quick drug discovery, even when this COVID-19 pandemic started. I mean, first time in pharma history, we have seen that we got some drugs within a few months. So broadly speaking, there are many factors, and mainly drug discovery, drug development, and drug administration, where artificial intelligence and machine learning can play a very instrumental role. Yeah. And in general, if you ask me, these segments where when we talk about drug discovery, drug development, and drug administrations, these segments are very often viewed as same. But in fact, there are various different domains, and that all can be enhanced by using artificial intelligence and machine learning. So kindly allow me to talk a bit more about artificial intelligence and machine learning, how it can play a very instrumental role in drug discovery. Yeah. So all we know that in modern biology is very rich and rich in data. So in general, modern biology is increasingly very rich and wealthy in data. Such data, as the vast amount of genetic data that has led to the generations of thousands of genomic databases. However, these large, data sets required an appropriate analytical methods to yield statistically valid models. And that can really, make some sort of predictions in drug discovery. Yeah. So artificial intelligence or machine learning, you can say, as we know that machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence, can be exploited to capture these large data sets, and also, can be utilized, for early target identification and validation. Yeah. So that's the broadly use of artificial intelligence in general in drug discovery. Now, let me also cover some equally important points. As we know that artificial intelligence refers to the ability of a machine, yeah, to perform task in response to the range of environments. And as I said earlier, that machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. Yeah. So machine learning, a subset of artificial intelligence, uses algorithm, yeah, and that can learn and improve without reprogramming. That's the beauty of having machine learning being used in drug discovery. So you don't need to do any reprogramming. Yeah. To predict outcomes related to drug discovery, the machine requires algorithms, as all we know, and to process existing data and identity patterns of properties. Machine learning can be used in many stages of drug discovery. Yeah, which includes, but it's not limited to what I'm going to talk about. But broadly, if you see that machine learning can be used in many stages of drug discoveries, includes which includes validation of biological targets, which also includes discovery of drug candidate molecules. Also, it includes identification of biomarkers, predictive of disease are also covered when you use artificial intelligence and machine learning broadly in data discovery. But I wanted to cover, a bit broader, aspect of artificial intelligence in drug discovery. And mainly, I would like to cover 5 major points, which really, helps and has played a very instrumental role in drug discovery. Yeah. So there are basically 5 major functions, and most of leading pharmaceutical companies, they have adopted this approach, and this approach has really given a good result. Yeah. Even I was leading one of similar project, and I have seen very closely that how it helped our research and development to come up quickly with some sort of drug discovery. Yeah. So those points are basically when we talk about artificial intelligence, how can be utilized in drug discovery. The first point is artificial intelligence can be used in drug design. So that is first point. So when we are designing our drugs, artificial intelligence help us in designing our drug. How it helps? It can help you in predicting 3D structure of your target protein. It can also help you in predicting drug protein interactions. It can also help in determining drug activity, which is also very important when we go for drug design. And last but not the least, artificial intelligence also helps to have a modern drug design. So these are the 4 major subsets of artificial intelligence, use of artificial intelligence in drug design. So that was the first part. Now I'm coming back to second part. So artificial intelligence is also playing very instrumental role in polypharmacology. So medical professionals and pharmaceutical research and development professionals will understand that what is polypharmacology, but broadly how it is helping in drug discovery. It plays a very instrumental role in designing biospecific drug molecules. So biospecific drug molecules are very important, and artificial intelligence really plays a very instrumental role. Yeah. The second one is designing, multi-target drug molecules. So multi-target drug molecules and, biospecific drug molecules. These are the two, major functions of use artificial intelligence in polypharmacology. Yeah. So the third point, which is basically in use of artificial intelligence in chemical synthesis. Yeah. So that's another function this has been used for a long in pharma industry. So using of artificial intelligence in chemical synthesis really gives you a good result. So how it helps you? It helps you in prediction of reaction yield. So any drug, when you go for such testing, that how how human body takes it, how digests it, and how reacts it. So the chemical synthesis process, in that process, artificial intelligence is helping you in predicting of reaction yield. That is the first point. Also artificial intelligence in prediction of retrosynthesis pathways. So that's the advanced level of chemical synthesis, which is being used by most of scientists in research and development. Yeah. Also it helps you in developing insights into reaction mechanism. So when you predict the reaction yield, also it helps you to develop and predict some sort of reaction mechanism. Yeah. And the last one is, when we talk about artificial intelligence used in chemical synthesis, it also gives, helps you in designing your synthetic route. So synthetic route, again, it's a scientific word which normally, research and development scientists will understand. Yeah. The fourth point, which also is very important in drug discovery, and artificial intelligence again plays a very instrumental role, is use of artificial intelligence in drug repurposing. So again, it helps you to identify therapeutic targets, and also it helps you in prediction of new therapeutic use. The last one is AI is really playing a very instrumental role is in drug screening. So that is the last phase where the whole drug discovery cycle gets completed. Yeah. So when we talk about drug screening, prediction of toxicity is one of the major advantage you have when you use artificial intelligence and machine learning. Yeah. The second one is prediction of bioactivity. It is also equally important when we talk about drug discovery. The third point is prediction of physiochemical property. So again, it's a scientific word which is being used in research and development domain. And the last but not the least one is identification and classification of target cells. So broadly, when you use artificial intelligence in drug discovery, you have 5 major functions which can really play a very instrumental role and help you to have a quick drug discovery, which I covered. AI used in drug design, that was the first one. AI in polypharmacology was the second one. AI in chemical synthesis was the third one. AI in drug repurposing was the fourth one, and AI in drug screening was the fifth one. So these are the 5 major functions. I mean, when we talk about how we can use artificial intelligence and machine learning, and how it helps in drug discovery.
So over to you, Mr. Gaurav, to share your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much. And like I was mentioning, right, in my introduction, that there is definitely a lot of business model changes, that we've seen over the last year plus, ever since the pandemic has hit us, right? And pharma industry is no different. And the industry has, and the healthcare industry has also been impacted. Now, if you look at resilience, and that's sort of the main topic, how can we really build resilience? So I'll give you an example of what we've done and what I've seen a lot of other organizations do, right? A lot of organizations have actually stepped back and used this time to really relook at their business models, relook at their cost models, most importantly, and also relook at their revenue models on, how they are developing, like in our case, specifically as a CDMO, how are we developing and how are we designing drugs, and how are we developing drugs, and how are we taking those to market, for our customers, right? So a couple of things, that became critical. One is we sort of took a step back and really started investing in looking at our business processes from scratch, right? Wherever we could drive efficiencies in the business process, It could be through Kaizen bursts that we did. It could be through other interventions of strategically bringing in a consultant to really help us give us an outside-in view on our business processes and where efficiencies could be driven. That was sort of the first thing that we did. The next thing that we did is, on top of this optimized business process layer, we decided to then embed technology on top of it to further enhance the levels of automation and the levels of data collection. Because finally, at the end of the day, the whole success from a digital transformation story lies around the power of data and how you can really harness the value of the data that we generate. Like Brigendra very correctly said, right? In the pharma industry, there is loads of data which is created, and generated. But at the end of the day, how many of us are able to really draw the value of that data? And that becomes really critical. So that we sort of looked at that, and keeping the end in mind, we went backwards to say, what do we really want to achieve? And then, embarked on multiple projects internally within the organization to ensure that the data collection is seamless, plus also the data analytics on top of it, makes sense and gives us the required end outcomes. The third thing that we also did is, information security is critical in all of these. So that became a fundamental and foundational pillar for us in whatever digital and technology investments we did. And we continue to do today, right? And then the fourth piece, which is, for our industry and industries like ours, like pharma and healthcare, or be it aerospace and defense, or be it financial services, all of these industries are heavily regulated industries. So regulations and compliance has become key. So you looked at ways of trying to see how we can really automate some of the processes. How can we bring in some levels of automation in CSV, for example, in the computer system validation, or how can we gradually move towards from a CSV to a CSA approach, which is a more risk-based approach, right? So looking at systems, we have a very robust system internally, which drives all our QA and QC processes. So how can we further digitize? How can we further go paperless? Make sure that all these CFR 21 Part 11 compliances are looked at. So holistically, we looked at every piece of our business, right from the discovery business to the AR&D, PR&D piece in the middle, to the process engineering, and to the manufacturing business. And then we started looking at where we can drive efficiencies. We also looked at enabling functions like supply chain, which becomes really, really critical. And I think Pooran mentioned that he'll be talking more about supply chain, so I won't delve into that. But we looked at supply chain as well, and how we can optimize it, and how can we make sure that the impact of a supply chain disruption is minimized in our case and to our business. And then finally, we sort of decided to look at a few metrics. A couple of metrics that we looked at to tie all of this together is, one is internal productivity improvement and efficiency improvement. Second is our production output improvement, which is what we drive, is a metric called OTIF, on time in full, and how can we drive improvements on that metric. And third is customer experience, and how can I drive customer transparency, better customer governance, and a better customer experience to the products and services that we deliver to our customers. So that's where I'll sort of leave it, Suptam, and we can come back for further questions. But we looked at this opportunity of the pandemic to really relook at every aspect of our business, so that really we can drive resilience and we can drive long-term scale and growth in the business.
I think that's a point very well raised, and in fact, resilience is the theme of this particular panel. So I'll move over to Mr. Atanu for his views on how are you going to work on this resilience and increased demand.
Where we are talking about the IT/OT convergence, this has some shop floor activities. Previously, just to preface the things, IT and OT happens to be two silos in the pharmaceutical industry, if we look at it. However, the convergence is what is the need of the hour, and mostly, it has already started. Many of the pharmaceutical companies have started seeing it, and the shop floors have started getting the benefit out of it. Uh, uh, to take a deeper dive, if I look at it, IT OT convergence, if I have to define it, how it will be like in order to understand the IT OT convergence, means in particular, it's important how the two buckets are uh, 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 in silos as a thing. To be more specific and precise, if I say historically, OT is talking about the systems like the MES, SCADA, PLCs, and CNCs in the pharmaceutical industry. While these systems can be extremely sophisticated, they weren't always networked, you see. So even though the mechanical OT systems in the manufacturing or the production houses where a quick embrace of digital technologies came into, they often weren't integrated and into a broader way to see, they were not a computerized system. They were more of a silos. Given the breadth of OT in the manufacturing or the production floor, they often included many machines, devices, and control mechanism operating in relative isolation and communicating using a variety of niche protocols. This has created this particular silo, communication difficulties, and blind spots in the processes, which Mr. Gaurav was also trying to touch upon. Uh, on the other hand, if you look at the IT is about information technology. The contrast refers to information infrastructure in a given operations. It encompasses the network architecture and all the hardwares and softwares and the necessary for processing and storing the information. IT includes hardwares like the laptop servers, softwares, etc., in a business which is talking about mapping the processes, different processes, and bringing them in. Uh, in the last 10 years, the distance between the OT and the IT has grown slimmer. That is how, that is where I want to emphasize. Increasingly, the components of OT could communicate directly with other machines, basically machine to machine, as well as with centralized servers rather than existing in silos. They were able to transfer information across the IT network. This was done in a variety of ways, including native functionalities, gateways, protocols, converters, and more through integration of traditional IT systems. This is how with the cloud coming in and the IoT is coming in with the lightweight connection ready sensors, uh, a total convergence started taking. Now, why the convergence matters, if you look at it this way, it's the term ITOT convergence simply names something that we have experienced firsthand over these years, perhaps without realizing it. Over the time, this convergence has changed the way our manufacturing or the medicine production works. Increasingly, the traditional way of doing a software developer, system integrator, and in turn a network specialist, IT specialist did a greater portion of their job. Because manufacturing systems married the world of IT and OT, workers on the shop floor, here is the one, workers on the shop floor had to improve their abilities in this area. This was no easy task. This was no easy task. And in each area, vast experiences of the each of the domains were to come into convergence with each other. And if you see the OT portion talks, as I was saying, talks to the machines, the equipments, the controls, and the production monitoring. Whereas on the other hand, the IT talks about storage, computing, infrastructure, data, and all. And this connection together created the value of what we are talking about today. If I look at it, if I look at it in a way where today something is on the manufacturing floor, the shop floor, there is no dashboard as such for the production people to have a control of things like what are the pH levels or anything of those can be while they go into the process, they are not getting right information. So this convergence, what was to I meant to say, the convergence is bringing in a new opening up things. The one which we are facing also, the challenges what we were facing also while we were implementing, we had a startup, we were implementing an ERP out there. And we were talking about having a business product, a business flow mapped in an ERP. However, the shop floor and the production went outside the ERP's purview. And there is this particular loop of the QC and QA, all the data which was getting generated in those areas were not becoming a part of the business information. And this convergence, when it was trying to happen, we had silos again. So these silos are getting broken up nowadays with this particular convergence and the sensors coming in, and the manufacturers of these equipments are also realizing this, have realized, and the manufacturing of the equipment, the lab equipment like Neutronics or whoever, are creating a databases which can come into together, and these silos are getting broken up. Well, with this, I would like to have hand it over back to you, Sukhwinder, so that we can take on the relevant questions as we go ahead.
I think it's very well explained. So I'll now come to Mr. Puran. I think you were talking about supply chain, and definitely that has been really needing resilience in a big way during this ongoing pandemic. So over to you, Mr. Puran.
Thank you, Mr. Satyen. As my colleagues have mentioned, they've got various areas of pharma. Especially Gaurav was talking about supply chain also, and where I've heard what Antanu was saying. How do we link each IT and OT? So if you talk about supply chain, it has both. It covers everything, IT and OT. So since Antanu has already taken care of IT and OT, I would like to get into more details of the supply chain. How are we using AI and ML in supply chain? So if you understand our company, we are the largest distributor of medicines, in India. We got various branches, and the only reason to have these branches because we want to supply medicine as soon as possible. Now, if in COVID, what we have seen, like the demand has increased, the supply was less. Plus, there were items like oxygen concentrator or oxygen cylinders, or some medicine like Feviflu, or there are a few medicine which was the supply was less, but demand was high, and the hospitals or even the patient wanted ASAP. This has created a lot of trouble in the whole sector, the pharma industry, I would say. When I was talking to one of the pharma companies who's manufacturing Feviflu, I was asking them, why can't you manufacture fast? They said, we can manufacture fast, but if you don't get a raw material, we will not be able to manufacture it. And one of the criteria which they also noticed, like no one was aware what the demand will come in. So COVID, whether it's a first wave or second wave, we all talk about the second wave will come. Nowadays also, if you see the third wave will come, but are we prepared for that? How do we prepare ourselves? The best way to prepare ourselves is that we have to analyze the data what we are collecting from various sources. It may possible the second wave was there in UK and US when it wasn't there in India. But if we had enough number of data, enough amount of data which could give us the information what can go wrong. So in pharma industry, if you see, it's more about demand supply. If you are not aware of what kind of demand will come on, you'll not be able to supply it. You'll not be able to manufacture it. When it comes to supply chain, you have a SLAs. When we do supply chain, when we take a contract of supply chain of any company, we come up with a SLA. We will deliver this medicine in, say, 1 day, 24 hours, 48 hours, or say 2 hours. There are medicines which needs to be delivered within 2 hours. You cannot keep those kind of medicine in transit for more than 2 hours. That is where your IT and OT comes in, which Antanu was talking about. So if you have IT or IoT devices which is attached to your vehicles, it can keep giving the results. There are cases, when it comes to routing, when you're in transportation, there are various issues which we face. The road construction is going on, the traffic is there, the road diversions are there. In many cities, like especially in Delhi, if you talk about, there are times when you get a sudden traffic jam. Some minister is passing, and you cannot take that route. And if you got stuck in that road, I think the God only can save that patient. So in those cases, we have to have real-time data, and that real-time data has to be captured on cloud, and cloud has to process that data in a way where the AI and machine learning can understand what kind of data it is coming in, what is the other alternate route to take, so that medicine can be delivered. That's from a transportation perspective. So in traditional days, the driver used to be the custodian of which route to follow. But now in our case, it is not the driver. Driver has to just control the vehicle. Obviously, we don't have a driverless vehicle as of now. Otherwise, we would have controlled that also. But now the only thing which we tell our drivers was you control the vehicle. The routes and everything is there displayed on your mobile, which is a small tab which is kept in front of every driver, like Uber and Ola. So they have to keep watch on that, and so they get to know the ETA. Plus that information getting stored on cloud and being shared with the client, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a doctor, whether it's our chemist, all the people are aware what kind of medicines are coming to us and what time it will arrive, what is the ETA, so that they are prepared. If they have to communicate with somebody, like, few cases, I'll give example. The operation is going on. There's a critical medicine required for the operation, or critical medicine, operational device required for operation. In that case, if they don't know where it is stuck or why it is stuck, they'll not be planned properly. A patient may die if they don't get a medicine on time. That's one of the factors. So that, apart from that, if you see that there are a lot of costs involved in transportation, in supply chain. There is a transportation cost, there is a warehousing cost, there is a cold storage cost, and what kind of inventory level we should have. So if you ask me, we try to keep the maximum inventory level, but it is not possible to keep the maximum inventory level all the time, because in pharma, there are expiry of medicine. If you don't supply, if you don't sell that, the medicine may get expired. And if the medicine gets expired, you will lose the money. So again, the data comes in handy. Like if you have to have a control on what is getting expired. Should we sell in the market? Should we send it back to the pharma companies? Because pharma companies also require some time to process it, before it get actually expired, because the expired medicine cannot be used again and again. So again, the data comes in picture. Plus, if you see there are cases where the particular medicine will sell more in south or may not sell in north. So we also have to identify which medicines are selling more in which area, which medicines are selling low in which area. We have to have an automated system which can start preparing the replenishment plan, which can start preparing that what to be sent where. We don't want to keep holding the medicine which is not getting sold in the area rather than selling it to somewhere area where it can be sold. So there's high, low, bottom, all that segregation, categorization of the medicines have been done on a daily basis, which is automated, because humanly it is impossible to control more than 200 companies, more than 3 lakh SKUs. Every company has, you cannot do that. That is where your AI and ML comes in picture. So if you talk about cost control, I come in deep dive into, there are medicine which requires cold storage and warehouse also. Even if it is in cold storage, there is an expiry for all these medicines. So if you don't know what medicines can expire in which time frame in your cold storage warehouse, not in transportation, in warehouse also, you have to keep on. Boss, you cannot employ so many people for one medicine or for every medicine. That is where the technology comes in. So Entero has that kind of warehousing technology which can control, which can keep giving the information. We have a dashboard for each division. So warehouse has a different dashboard. The retail has a different dashboard. The transportation team has a different dashboard. And these dashboards are taking the data from one source. We don't have multiple sources, because I've seen in past, many people have various data sources. They don't talk to each data. And they said, my data is right, your data is wrong. So we don't have that kind of data. We have centralized repository system, which is we call data warehousing, where all the data is coming from various different sources, whether it's a supply chain, whether it's a warehouse, whether it's transportation, whether it's a pharma company, whether it's the chemist, hospital, or doctor. So we cover everything. So that's where the cost management comes in picture. So also, if you see, there are times when you have a medicine from different batches, different pricings are also there. You also have to control how the pricing has to work. Again, the number of SKUs are so much that humanly it is impossible. So that is where we use AI ML to make sure that we push the right medicine, which has got less expiry or which is near to expiry. We want to stock out early. So again, that is where the machine learning comes in. The machine learning has read our data or past sales history, past transaction history. Based on that, it start creating logic. There are cases in the market. If you go into chemist market, there are competition. The competitors will be selling more discount level. They will be giving the more trade history. There are people who do on trade. Like if you ask me, we also do a business on trade. Like we buy material today, we will pay after a week or two. But there are people and exceptions who don't pay. So we don't have humans to identify all that cases. So we have everything is programmed in a way where everything is get automatic logged, or automatic reminders are sent to the various stakeholders about your payment is due. You have to make the payment. If you don't make the payment, your future supplies will be disconnected. So there are various controls. Plus, when it comes to if you talk about discount management, which I was talking about, so there are people who are buying more and more from you. They come to you like, okay, I need a more discount. So that is where we don't leave that decision to humans. We say, boss, there is system will identify your purchase history or your transaction history, and based on that, it will come up with a discount structure. So there are a hell lot of areas to cover, and we do everything with machines. That's all from my side.
So while digitalization has been a keyword, but I think another new term is now doing the rounds, that's phygital. So you add physical with digital.
Correct.
And it's not digital alone, like Mr. Puran was saying about the control. So maybe, and in fact, even during this pandemic, of course, we had less physical, more digital, but then the combination, I think, is also very, very much felt. So anyone would like to say something on that, Mr. Puran?
Yeah, so phygital is something which I've been using for about 6-7 years, because I'm coming from prior to pharma, I was with jewelry company. Then before that, I was with fashion company. So, for me, it is like we were doing more of offline transactions, and we used to always get surprised like how the online sale or Amazon is making sales and everything. So I was the one who used to like drive sales, like I have to go online, not just because I'm a technology person, but I can foresee what is going to happen in future, which is exactly has happened in a COVID scenario. If you see, everything went online, the shops were closed, but people did not stop buying. Forget about pharma. So that's what I'm coming from. So I always keep telling us it's more of physical. Coming back to pharma, it is less of online, more of a physical thing. Though we have 1mg, Netmeds, everything, they are just a window where you can place the order, but rest of the story, 90% tasks are done offline, which is where your technology comes in picture. It is not about website. Somebody has a fancy website where you can go and log in and order the medicine. But boss, if you're ordering the medicine has to reach on time. Medicine has to have a proper composition. There cannot be there are very cases where drug abuse happens. When you have marketplaces, I'm not sure how much these websites are controlling, how they are controlling. You may get a duplicate drugs. If you see the news in the last, I think 1 or 2 weeks before, I heard a news like a lot of people got vaccinated just because of they got a fake vaccination, which is also a case. Vaccination, if you see, it's just a pure liquid. You and me cannot identify whether it's really a vaccine or it's a water. Now, how do we control that? There are cases where companies are still working on using technology to make sure this kind of issues does not happen. Obviously, we have come far away from what used to happen before. If somebody used to open the bottle or inject the different dilute the medicines, but still there are cases which needs to be taken care. So my suggestion to everyone was technology is going to there, and it is going to connect everyone. It is for the connection of everyone. It is for to provide the better information, not to give the wrong information. If we use properly, we can do wonders. If you ask us, the only reason we were able to increase our sales because of technology. Otherwise, if we had no visibility of what's happening, what is the stock level, what is the demand, what is the supply, we wouldn't have been able to do the business. We started 3 years before, and we are better than our competitors.
I think it's a very exciting time, and of course, technology has always been a double-edged sword. Whether you use it for good purpose or bad purpose, it's up to us. So I think it's been really a very fruitful interaction, a lot of learning for all of us. So we'll go for the last round. That's the winding up take-home messages. Okay, Mr. Atanu, you can share your take-home messages. We'll come back later.
The take-home message could be like this, just the pharmaceutical industry per se has to change from go-to-market to go online. That is the way I look at it, because pharmaceutical is more a face-to-face or kind of thing. Also, अगर चीजें बिकी नहीं, supply नहीं पहुंचा, so नहीं होगा. So कहीं पर sales, somewhere this particular sales and market dynamics and along with the market intelligence has to become brought in, and which is happening. It has started happening. The amount of conferences, web conferences, which is coming on the net shows that these are certain things, the readiness, the expectation, the accessibility, and all those things have to be brought in together. So that is what I think is going to change, and pandemic is pushing it probably at an acceleration where what used to happen in last 10 years is happening in 1 year.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Gaurav. Your take-home messages.
So I think for me, like I mentioned earlier, technology is here to stay. But for every business to survive, revenue is key. The bottom line, cash in the bank, is absolutely key. So keeping both of those in mind, let's look at the end in mind, redefine our processes, and apply technology wisely. And like I said, let's use it responsibly.
So my take-home message is basically, to be ready to adopt any, technology adoption, to keep your eyes and open to see what's happening around in the market during this pandemic. Yeah. And so we should be enough, flexible to adopt new technology, to travel on the track of digital transformation, to ensure that our business is, getting facilitated, and, technology becomes a facilitator for the business. So that's the take home from my side.
Okay, Mr. Puran, your take home messages.
My take home message for all the industry, irrespective of pharma, the technology is the key. If you use technology properly, you will definitely increase your revenue and profit. I would suggest everyone to start looking at technology ASAP, because if you delay using technology, you will lose a market share. That's what my experience has been. There have been companies who got shut down in this COVID because of not using proper technology. So my suggestion, there are technology solutions available for everybody, from a small company to a big company. People have to understand what kind of solution they require. They may not need to go with a big 4 company. They can have smaller partners. They can have a small team, but they can build a lot of things. The artificial intelligence, what we are talking about, is nothing but what you and me think of it, but in a machine way. It can work 24/7, because I need a sleep for 8 hours minimum. That's what my thinking. So even if I have 6-member team, they would require some break or something like that. When it comes to machine, they don't stop. They will keep working 24/7, and they will give much more results. So the technology is there, and that's what my take home message for everyone.
So in other words, technology can provide a good amount of resilience, even if the market demands increase. So that's definitely a good news. And in fact, early adopters will always be the early gainers. So I think it's really been a very wonderful interaction, and I think whoever is listening to it will also gain something. So thanking you all once again. So it was a great pleasure interacting with all of you, and I myself learned a lot.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.